Hi everyone. Welcome to our online webinar event series. My name is Rebecca Lee and I am the coordinator for online services here at ACCESS Employment. And I just wanted to take the time to thank you all for joining us here today. Our topic today is how to market yourself to potential employers in 5 easy steps. I also have 2 guest speakers here today with me. So we have Fernando from PTC, from whom will be also co-facilitating with Rachel Mitchell as well, Manager of Business Development at TorontoJobs.ca. So I'm going to be passing on this webinar to Fernando just to kick off our featured presentation. So Fernando, over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rebecca. First of all, thanks again for everybody signing in and everybody who's listening to this and seeing what's on the screen. In the interest of time, I'm going to try to be very, very fast as we move along through the slides. So I'll start by telling you a little bit about myself and who I am. Basically, throughout my career, I've worked in a couple of different industries. My name is Fernando Brandt, as you can see there. I'm the VP of Corporate Strategy for PTC Recruiting. I'm a proud Canadian. I was born in Venezuela and I also grew up in the US. I'm married and I have 3 wonderful kids. I love to listen and play music. I'm very determined, or if you ask my wife or anyone who I know or anybody that I work with, I'm just plain stubborn. And some of my areas of expertise, as you'll see on the screen now, pertaining to the things I've done: leadership. I've also done critical and creative thinking, problem solving, process improvement, talent acquisition, and a couple of other things throughout my career. And my dream is to be like Bruce Springsteen. So this is a guy who is going to be 69 years old this year, in a couple of months actually, and he's the boss, and anybody who's seen him in concert knows what I'm talking about. So that's what I aspire to be when I grow up. I'll pass things over to my colleague Rachel now.
Perfect. So my name is Rachel Mitchell, and I manage business development for TorontoJobs.ca, going into my 12th year with Toronto Jobs. So have seen a lot happen in terms of the industry and employment over the last 12 years. I'm honored to be presenting alongside Fernando today, and I look forward to sharing my expertise and things I've learned along the way in this ever-changing employment industry. So what I love most about my career is I get to put my educational background of marketing to use and also combine that with my knowledge of employment to assist hundreds of job seekers find meaningful employment, particularly across the Toronto and Greater Toronto area. So like Fernando, I only have 1 child, so I'm not as busy, but I have a 4-year-old daughter. And when I look at her and I watch her grow and I think about the future, I see such a fast-paced, changing economy. Her generation will have to be very forward-thinking and adapt to new technology so quickly, even more so than we do today, if you can imagine that. So I'm going to precede Fernando, and I'm going to talk about how this is relevant today and how a lot of job seekers haven't yet adapted to the new ways that they should be, or I should say most job seekers haven't adapted to the new ways. So I'm going to talk a lot about the online tools that everyone can use to find their next career. So for now, I'm going to pass it over to Fernando, and I'll join you later in the presentation today.
Thanks, Rachel. So before we actually look at these 5 steps and how to market yourself to potential employers, I actually want each one of you to take a moment and think about the major accomplishments you've had in your lives. Think of all the talents you have, the skills you possess, anything that you've acquired over the years. Think of your values and all the goals you still had ahead of you. Now, once you've thought of this for a moment, ask yourself this question. What is your personal brand? And what does that mean? So when we think of brands, we typically think of products or companies like these. And most of them are easily identifiable. This means that we know what they do, we know what they're good for, whether it's food, cars, coffee, shoes, technology, fashion, whatever it is. So how do we think of ourselves as a small-scale version of any one of these companies? And the very simple answer to that question is, in order to define your own brand, you first need to come up with a mission, vision, and value proposition. And this is an exercise that most companies will go through, by the way. So when we talk about mission, your mission is your now. So what do you want to do next? Your short-term goals. When we talk about vision, we mean the direction you want to go in and where you want to be in the future. And then in terms of value proposition, that's what makes you great. And I'm a firm believer that everyone is great or can become great at something. So figuring out these three things, the mission, the vision, and the value proposition, are going to be crucial to the process of marketing your own brand. And one last tip before we actually jump into the 5 steps, and this is an important one, is tell a story. So turn that mission, vision, and the value proposition into a very short, very interesting, and memorable story. And it's going to be worth it. So now let's go into each of the 5 steps. So the 5 steps that we're referring to effectively market your profile to potential employers are your resume, your LinkedIn profile, networking, applying to open jobs, and finally job interviews. And hopefully this is going to lead into an actual job, your dream job or the right job for you. So let's go through each one of these in more detail. And we're going to start with the resume. So your resume or CV, before I actually say anything about that, resumes are like opinions, right? Everybody has one, and it doesn't mean that they're right. So resume actually means summary. So the key is to keep your resume short and sweet, be concise. There's really no definitive template, but there's a couple of important things to keep in mind. So you have to make sure that your formatting on your resume is consistent in terms of the layout, the font type, the size, the color scheme. And trust me, I've seen some pretty wacky resumes in my day. It doesn't matter how great you are, spelling is an important thing to keep in mind, right? Spelling mistakes are always going to make you look bad. And probably they're going to get you disqualified from any of your job applications very quickly. And again, I've seen some very bad spelling mistakes that tell a lot about the person, whether it's the attention to detail or whether it's how well they manage to communicate in a certain language. So it's important to keep that in mind. Ideally, you also want your resume to be 1 page. And I know that's going to sound tricky. Some of you out there might have 3, 4, 5, 6. I've seen dozens of pages on resumes, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. We want you to bring it down to 1 page. Also important, your resume must be completely accurate. You got to be careful with the exact dates, job titles, degrees, job responsibilities, etc. Don't twist the facts, and certainly don't embellish anything on your resume. White lies are not okay. So a question I get asked a lot, what should my resume look like? And here's my simple answer to that. And going back to what I said about 1 page, again, this is a summary. You don't have to tell the whole story, but you have to highlight the most important parts of your story. And so, again, this is a nice way, a nice design of fitting everything into 1 page, right? Again, the key is to be mindful to the limited space you have, so choose words wisely. Let's move on to the second step. In terms of LinkedIn and your LinkedIn profile, well, the first thing is you have to actually be on LinkedIn. And we definitely advise people, whether it's clients or candidates, to open a LinkedIn profile and be active on it. When you do that, you have to start by asking yourself, what do you intend to use LinkedIn for? Do you want to find a job? Are you looking to build a network of connections? Are you selling a service, or all of the above, perhaps? So remember, LinkedIn is a professional networking platform, so you have to keep it professional, right? Starting with your picture. In terms of what the picture looks like, and again, I've seen some pretty informal pictures on LinkedIn. You want a picture with a solid background. You want to be wearing professional attire, so for example, what you would wear to a job interview. You want to have a friendly expression on your face, and my advice is don't get too artistic with the pictures, right? No filters, no weird things, colors, or whatever. A couple of different parts of your LinkedIn profile that I definitely suggest that you look into are the headline, tagline, and summary. They're all three of these are meant for different things, and by the way, none of them should be your current or most recent title, and I see 90% of LinkedIn users making that mistake. In the interest of time today, I'm not going to be going through these three things or what they're intended for, but I definitely suggest that you Google them and read up as to what the proper use for each one of these sections is. Most people don't even know that you can customize your LinkedIn URL. So it doesn't really have to be a group of random characters or symbols. You can actually personalize it like you would with an email address. So I advise you do that as well. Your contact information should be up to date. It might be a good idea to include a phone number if you want people to be able to reach you. And you should definitely have your personal email address on it. I have seen people put their home address on it. I don't recommend sharing that with most users out there. So again, that'll be up to each one of you. Then in terms of skills and endorsements, these are other sections on your profile that you should definitely take advantage of. They add third-person validation to your work experience. And then the last point is sharing relevant content on a consistent basis, once, twice a week. And you don't have to write original content. You could always share, post, you could curate content that somebody else wrote and add your own personal comments or your own personal opinions to it. But it's a good way to stay on people's radars. The next step has to do with networking. And here are a few things you'll need to do it right. Practice your elevator pitch. So this is going to be the 30-second version that highlights your story, like a radio ad. Tell people who you are, what you've done, and why you're great. And you have to boil it down to like 30 seconds. Some people say that networking is the most effective way to find the right job, and others will actually tell you that it's the only way. Networking is definitely a way to make connections with other people that may be able to help you. So the key is to make sure that you only target people that can help you reach your goals. Don't waste your time, and definitely don't waste other people's time by trying to network with someone who's really not going to bring you any closer to your job. When you do actually meet with someone, be sure to be friendly. Don't be shy. So I apologize in advance if there are any introverts out there. You have to be outgoing, and you have to be aggressive, and you have to stay on topic as well. If you can, like for example, if you're meeting somebody for coffee, bring a notepad and definitely take notes, because it's going to show appreciation for the other person's time. If you're in a conference or you're at an event and you're just standing across from someone, might not be the right place to take notes. But even then, try to get a business card and make sure you get the person's contact information. And then always follow up with the person you met. So it's important to keep relationships going. This brings us to the job application stage. So once your resume and your LinkedIn are ready for action, and you actually come across a job that you believe is going to be the right fit for you, make sure you read the ad carefully and completely. It's important. Don't skim through the ad. Don't just read the title and think, this is great, I think I can do this job. You know, if somebody teaches me how to do the job, I think I can do it. Make sure you read it and understand exactly what they're saying about the job, the role, the company, the environment. Only apply if you actually meet all or most of the key criteria. So, for example, if the ad specifically asks for somebody bilingual, which in Canada means English, French, and you don't speak one of the two languages, don't apply. If you have the experience or skills, then make sure your resume highlights every keyword or technical skill that may be important to that job. Read up on the company. So it's very easy these days with Google to search online, go on somebody's website, a company website, go on Glassdoor or other websites that offer reviews, and read up on the company. So I'm sorry to say, if it's too easy or if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If you get a call from a company you didn't apply to, before you commit to anything, make sure you read up on who that company is and what former employees have to say, because there's a lot of strange things happening all over the world and strange companies out there that claim to be one thing and then end up being another. So it's important you do the due diligence for yourself as well. Keep track of which jobs you've applied to. So if you do get a call, you want to make sure you know exactly which company it was you applied to and what role it was you applied to. You don't want to get caught off guard. Let's go into the fifth and final step now, and this is the job interview. So I always tell people that once you've made it to the interview stage, the job is pretty much yours to lose. At that stage, most people can do the job. It's just a matter of how well you present and how well you connect with whoever's sitting across from you in that room. So here are a few important tips. Always plan on being there early. You got to leave plenty of time for accidents or delays, because as everybody knows, these things do happen. If you do run into an unexpected situation, then you need to immediately contact the person that's expecting you and let them know you're going to be late or you're not going to be able to make it. Again, leaving time to be there early also means that if you get there too early, don't walk into the office, I would say probably any more than 15 minutes ahead of your interview time. So if that means staying in your car, listening to some music, catching up on emails, or just grabbing a cup of coffee, I recommend you do that. And then 15 minutes ahead of the actual interview time, you walk into the office and let things run their course. In terms of dressing, I always ask people, overdress. Dress professionally, from head to toe. Keep it simple, keep it classy. When it comes to jewelry, accessories, and perfume, less is more, trust me. There's nothing I like less than being in a room with someone who's wearing too much perfume. In terms of researching, again, do more research. Now that you're going in for an interview, do more research on the company you're going into. Look at recent announcements about their products or their services, if there's anything that's been in the news about the company or their employees. Always bring pen and paper. Always. Doesn't matter if you scribble on the piece of paper while you're talking to the person. Bring pen and paper, and also bring a few questions that are going to be relevant to the conversation. Take notes, okay? It shows that you're interested and it shows that you're paying attention. And then after the interview, follow up with a simple, sincere thank you note. So before we hand things over to Rachel, Rachel's going to have some great slides on how to actually find the jobs, I'm just going to do a quick recap from what we just went over. So we spoke about the resume. We spoke about the LinkedIn profile and making sure everything is accurate. We spoke about networking. We mentioned how to actually apply to jobs that you're qualified for. And then we also discussed what to do when you actually make it to that final interview stage of the job. And again, hopefully these 5 things will help you properly secure your dream job, or at least at the very minimum, market yourself effectively to employers. So Rachel, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Fernando. So I know Fernando's gone through the process and building your profile, and today I'm really going to speak to you about the thousands of ways that we can use online methods to find a new job. So I obviously won't be able to touch on all of them, but I want to give you tips that I'm finding to be the most effective and ways that you can utilize those to try to really ramp up your response rate from employers. So the first thing is I see a lot of disconnect happening in the market today, candidates not being able to find jobs and employers not being able to find qualified candidates. So I'm hearing kind of the same common complaint on both ends of the spectrum. This disconnect is a pretty big question mark in the industry right now, and I think it has a lot to do with the times changing. Employers are now changing the way that they're finding candidates, and just based on my experience and talking to candidates and working with candidates, they're not adapting as quickly with the process. So hopefully I can give you some key takeaway points today to really change the way you search slightly and hopefully give you some new points that you can incorporate into your process. So before we begin, I'm just going to touch on 3 main areas. So Firstly, I'm going to talk about just the state of the labor market. I know there are a few people or several people on here that may be from overseas or people that are living in Toronto that may not know how the current unemployment rate and employment landscape looks. So I'm going to go over that and just talk about some top tips on how to stand out online or on the World Wide Web. And then we're going to, as mentioned, we're going to field some questions once we've completed. So if you do have questions, please place them into the question box and we'd be happy to answer them once I've completed. So going into my first slide, just the state of the labor market, I just want to go over it from an employment perspective, as I think it has an effect on how the recruitment landscape is really changing. So the current unemployment rate in Ontario sits at about 5.8%, which is the lowest point in 16 years and far below our 6.5% national rate. So Ontario has added over 96,000 jobs in the past year, which sounds like most people are working in our province. However, there's still just over 400,000 people looking for work, according to Statistics Canada. So looking at these stats, it might seem that jobs are at an all-time low. However, being in an industry where I work with companies on a daily basis in terms of the recruitment strategy, there's lots of jobs still out there. It's just a matter of knowing where to look. So I mentioned in my introduction that employers are changing the way they're finding candidates. Going back 10 years, most people looking for a job in warehouse, sales, retail, or even just a certain region would pick up their local newspaper or drop their resume off to the actual company's office. I'm going to refer to online a lot in my presentation points. When I refer to online, I'm not just speaking about applying to jobs and posting jobs. I'm talking about using all of the tools that are available to really ramp up your search. Employers are going online, and just kind of to use an example, so we'll take the warehouse industry. We have several clients looking to fill hundreds of warehouse jobs, and they're really struggling to find candidates. My kind of simple answer to this is companies are no longer using outdated advertising methods to find candidates. They now want the data to determine which advertising methods are being effective in their recruitment process. They want to track results. They want to see how many people viewed and responded to their postings. And this really can't be tracked through print or people coming into their office. They want to be able to simply respond to an email or use their applicant tracking system. So while employers are moving online, candidates are still kind of relying on traditional old methods. So we're getting kind of a disconnect within certain industries. Recruiters are also now working with a sense of urgency. So with all the tools available, it's no longer really sufficient just to post a job as an employer and wait for applications to come in. Employers are doing a lot of headhunting. They're using social media. They're actively looking for candidates. So it's really important that you are easily found online. I understand that most candidates want that humanization in the application process, and this is the most common complaint I get when speaking to candidates. So unfortunately, the economy, the way it is moving in a direction where you really have to display your humanization online and your personalization online. Things are getting more fast-paced now, and being known and found virtually is kind of the new norm. So let's dive into the more important part of the presentation, how we can really use the internet and the unemployment rate and just the overall economy and tools that we have to find a job. So as we all know, everything is going to continue to move forward with technology, and we really, really need to adapt. Online job boards, social media, blogs, videos, podcasts, and so many more tools that we have available at our fingertips. Not sure if anyone has heard, but Google is now coming out with a new, I don't know if you want to call it section of Google or adding to their repertoire of hundreds of products that they offer, but they are coming out with Google Careers. And as far as I know, this is just US-based at the moment. So Google is finding that a lot of people, when running their searches, so I'm sure a lot of you search customer service Mississauga or customer service Toronto if you want to find a job in those areas. So a lot of Google's algorithms, and they're watching people run these searches, and they're not aligning with the search results that companies are getting. It's just simply not matching employers with queries that candidates are searching for. So the system they're developing is going to be a little bit more advanced. It's going to show candidates the commute time to each position they're applying for, which I think is really awesome. And they're going to try to introduce a more one-click application process in the overall industry, so eliminating, I'm sure most of you, when you go to apply for a job, you upload your resume, but you also have to fill out a million fields to submit your application. So they're trying to really automate the process a little bit more. So we'll have to watch for Google. I think they'll come out with some interesting things. I'm not sure if it's coming to Canada, but to the U.S. for sure within the next few months. So kind of moving on, so employers using social media, I kind of want to go back to this because I'm going to really drill into this in my presentation. If you're not active on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn specifically, you really have to get a profile and make yourself active on those sites. According to JobVite, which is an overall employment service that's offered, I believe, internationally, 75% of employers are using social media. That's a big number. 93% of hiring managers will review a candidate's social profile before making a hiring decision, and 55% have once reconsidered hiring a candidate based on their findings. As someone in the employment industry, I'm finding these numbers are staggering. I mean, 55% have reconsidered hiring a candidate based on their social profiles. Employers are using social media not only to post jobs, but to see what their potential new hires' hobbies are, who they're associated with, posts that they're commenting on, things that they're interested in. So if you don't have an account on, like the three primary sites that I said, so Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, I would definitely, think about doing that today if possible. Really creating a very professional social profile for yourself. Following companies that you want to work for, seeing what their new news releases are. A lot of employers might not go to external job boards. They might use their social profiles like Facebook and LinkedIn, if their network's large enough, to first post the job there, see if they can get a response, and then they might move to outside sources. So really, get really active on those social media sites. If you already have a profile, check your settings on social media. Make sure that your privacy settings and view your profile from what an outside person sees. As you may not want your employer to see what you did on the weekend, or your potential employer to see what you did on the weekend. So make sure things that you don't want seen publicly are marked as private, or they're marked as not searchable. Looked at what you're tagged in. Are your friends tagging you in posts that you might not want others to see? You can block those types of things from happening. So these are really important things to note in terms of really your online presence and what employers are looking at. 60% of employers are looking for qualifications on prospective new hire social media pages that align with their resume. So I found this pretty interesting. As 60% of employers, what this means is that they're looking at your resume and they're going to try to find you on social media to see if what you're saying is really true. So if you have a LinkedIn profile and your resume said you worked at ABC company for the time period of 4 years, did you really work at that company? Does your LinkedIn profile align with your resume? Does your Facebook status, you can add your company name and your current job title. Does that align with what your resume said? So ensure that your Facebook profiles are always up to date. I mean, they're not a tattoo. You can definitely make changes to them as time goes on. You can update them daily. If anything's changed in your profile, please make sure you update those on a daily basis. Do you have an online portfolio attached to your social media page? So this is interesting. LinkedIn allows you to upload presentations that you've done. It allows you to upload PDFs and other documents to showcase your skill set. So, maybe you are a web developer and you design these awesome websites. Do you have those samples on your LinkedIn pages? It's really important that you utilize those features to really display that person that I was talking about earlier. So if an employer lands on your LinkedIn page and he just sees some basic content, he might skip through. But if he or she lands on your LinkedIn page and they see examples of work you've done, websites that you've built, projects that you've been involved in, they might say, wow, this really speaks volumes of this person's skill sets. I better take a further look, or I better give them a call to discuss further. If you don't have previous work to showcase, maybe you're new into the career, you just graduated, you can really use LinkedIn as well to profile books that you're reading, or interests that you have, or your volunteer opportunities. And those also will show employers your activity, things that you've been involved in, and just your overall personalization. If you don't use LinkedIn, which I think Fernando kind of drilled it down, and I'm going to drill it down as well, you really should get on LinkedIn and ensure you're following companies that you want to work for. You're sharing relevant content publicly. These are just some ways to show your relevance in the industry. Today, employers are being really proactive. So as I mentioned earlier, they're not just waiting around for people to apply to jobs. They're using resume databases to search resumes. They're using their network and asking for referrals. They're using social media. They're attending events and career fairs, and they're really looking for the best tool that's going to help them in finding their next perfect candidate. So they're not so much, like I said, just sitting around waiting for applications to flood into their inbox. They're really getting out there and they're headhunting. And how they're doing this is social media, is going to events. So you really have to put yourself out there other than just applying online to positions. So coming to the next point, using all mediums that are available. Can you be found by something other than your online application? Do you have your resume posted on multiple job boards? Just to give you an idea, last week alone, TorontoJobs.ca had 50+ employers using our database, our resume database, to find candidates, a lot of which were recruitment firms that have multiple positions that they're looking to fill. So could they find your resume? Are you on Monster? Are you on Workopolis? Are you on Indeed? Have you posted your resume on TorontoJobs.ca? I would suggest uploading your resume to each and every relevant job board that you can find. And moving into the next point, these job boards also offer various methods to ease your search process. So each of these sites will give you the option to sign up for job alerts or to download their app, which I strongly recommend. Why search for jobs when they can search for you each day? It's all about making the process a little bit easier for yourself. So you can sign up to receive jobs daily, weekly, or in the case of an app, I believe that they come in instantly through notifications. So if it was me looking for a job, I would suggest signing up for the highest frequency alert. Just kind of statistically, employers are most on top of the recruitment process when the job is first posted. So the closer your application is to the post date, the better chance you have of getting an interview or having the employer review your profile and your resume. So going off a little bit from online, I kind of want to take a step back and really stress the importance of scheduling your day. So I've done lots of article content and presentations, and the thing I find the most effective and the most important thing that you can do in your job search is really organizing your time. So Fernando and I are giving you a lot of tools and tips to consider when searching for a job, but if you don't organize your time and ensure you're covering all your bases, your job search I don't find is going to be as effective. So I use tools like Evernote or simply just your calendar and your smartphone to create alerts in terms of scheduling. In my job search process, I would sit down each week for 2 hours and evaluate my process. So I'd ask myself some questions. What worked really well last week in my job search? What didn't work so well? What could I be spending more or less time on? Who do I know this week that I could reach out to and let them know I'm searching for a job? What is happening in the employment sector in the news? Once I really evaluated these items, I would plan for my week. So I would create an Excel spreadsheet or block times in my calendar to ensure that I really stayed on track with my plan. So as an example, for how kind of my day or week would look, I'm going to spend 2 to 3 hours each day searching job boards for new postings and submitting online applications. I'm going to spend 1 to 2 hours reading through my job alert emails that we've signed up for daily or weekly and pick out postings I'm going to apply to. And as Fernando mentioned, make sure you save those jobs. Most job boards will give you a functionality where you can save the job. I would definitely not skip over that step, because if you have to revert back to a job posting and an employer asks you a question and you might have applied for 50 jobs and you might not know what they're referring to and you might not be able to find that posting online again. So please make sure you're saving what you've applied to. The next step, I'm going to spend 2 hours on social media. I'm going to add new contacts. I'm going to follow companies I want to work for. I'm going to join groups that are relevant to my industry. So I'm not sure if you know if you're a LinkedIn user avidly or if you're new to LinkedIn. There are so many groups that are industry specific. So if you're in sales, I'm sure there's a sales group in Toronto, a sales group in Mississauga. If you're in engineering, I'm sure there's the same thing. You should really get active in these groups. So commenting on posts, following companies you want to work for and commenting on their posts or sharing their content, really becoming brand advocates for these brands that you may want to work for now or in the near future. Requesting connection requests on LinkedIn from HR managers that may be in your field. Building your online profile, so adding documents as we previously discussed. And then I'm going to spend 1 to 2 hours building my online portfolio. So I haven't yet touched on this, and I will as I get a little bit further into my content, but really showcasing your skills so you can add this link to your resume, to your social profiles, and application, and perhaps even developing some video content to start sharing with employers on why they should hire you. And you're probably thinking videos aren't for me, and I totally feel the same way on this webinar. I was like, it'd be great if it could be sound only, because I just don't enjoy watching myself on video at all. But unfortunately, I'm starting to try to adapt to it, because this is the way the world is shifting. So with Snapchat, with Facebook Live, people are now working from home more than ever, so HR managers especially, and they're really relying on video to get to know their candidates. I know that within our office, most of our interviews are now done via Skype. So practicing video content over and over and over until you love it is really important in today's age. So there's several articles. I'm not going to get too much into Skype interviews. It's just something I wanted to touch on, because I think it goes hand in hand with online, applying, and just your overall, job search process. So I would, I would do some research on articles that give you tips on how to create amazing video content or how to ace video interviews. I have some quick points to kind of go through with you. So if you've been asked to do a Skype interview, always ensure you're in a quiet space. There's no clutter around you. There's no distractions on the walls. Dress in business attire. Practice the interview with a friend. Ensure you're looking at the camera rather than down or at your notes. Really be focused on the person that's interviewing you, and eliminate any distractions and iron out any technical issues before you begin. As we all know, technology can kind of have its own mind sometimes. So really make sure you're practicing for those Skype interviews, because that becomes an important part of the job search process. And kind of going back a little bit to my point before we went into Skype interviews, creating a video. So, if you could have a 30-second video like Fernando had talked about, your elevator pitch, and you could put that on screen with your face and show your personality, that would really wow an employer, especially if you tailored it to a job that you really wanted. So maybe putting yourself out there, solving the employer's problems, talking about the points that are in the job description and how you really relate, and putting that into a 30-second video, that I'm sure would wow many recruiters out there, and it would really distinguish yourself as a job seeker. So now I'm just going to go through some really quick tips in terms of how to stand out in your job search, and using all these tools like Facebook, Twitter, social media to really put yourself out there. So kind of going into this video stuff again, the evolution of podcasts and videos are now one of the main ways people are sourcing information. So consider creating a video about your skills, about your experience, and include that with your application. Your online portfolio. Do you own your own name as a domain? As an example, I own rachelmitchell.ca as a domain. I haven't started building it yet, but I suggest purchasing through a domain registry such as GoDaddy. It's very easy to use, and it's a great tool to create a brand for yourself, tell your story through text, through video, through past experiences. We use Wix often to build websites from a marketing perspective, and it's very simple to build your own website very quickly. And remember that your social profiles, your resume, all of this content isn't a tattoo. So you really need to focus on updating them weekly, updating them monthly. Did you volunteer for a new organization? Really update that and make sure it's relevant. So following companies you want to work for. I know I touched on this. Marketing and HR contacts are very active on their company's social media pages. I post content every day to our pages, and I do look at candidates that like and share our posts to see if they would be relevant for any job openings that we have. I actually had a candidate, just to share a quick story, just the other day add me to Facebook. She sent me a private message that she was looking for an accounting job. Because her message popped up, it was pretty convenient for me to respond right away and learn more about her without even looking at her resume. I just simply clicked on her profile. Her profile seemed great on Facebook. I noticed she was working in accounting, as she did have the position and her employer right on her information on her page. So I asked her to send her resume directly to my email address, and she has an interview with one of our clients this week. So it's very, very easy if you're following some basic social media practices. She was following our page. She saw that I was online. She simply sent me a message, and it turns out that her skills do match what one of our clients was looking for. So it was pretty simple for her. She did her due diligence. She followed companies she wanted to work for, and she was very proactive. So I really suggest, being proactive from that perspective. Hopefully she did a little bit of research, and I can't stress this enough. Do not apply for a job if you're not qualified for what the employer is looking for. Don't reach out to them via social media. Really do your homework before you're marketing yourself to someone, as you don't want to waste your employer's time. LinkedIn and Facebook also allow you to do visitor posts. So a lot of times on our Facebook page or our LinkedIn page, I will go through and see, is there anyone looking for work? Is there anyone that proactively went on our page and posted that they're looking for a job and an attachment with their resume and explained what kind of job they're looking for and added their contact information? And what I mean by this is if you go to Facebook and you type in TorontoJobs.ca, we have a group and we have a page. There's a lot of employers that are using our pages to recruit candidates. So as a candidate, from my perspective, and I never see candidates do this, it would be very smart of you to go to our page and say, I'm Rachel Mitchell, I'm looking for a job in marketing in Toronto. Here's a glimpse of my experience. Here's a link to my online portfolio if you want to take a look. I'd be happy to, kind of speak to you more about my experience kind of thing. So that would be me actively promoting myself as opposed to just applying for jobs. It's a way that you could use Facebook as well as LinkedIn to really put yourself out there. So using social media, I don't think I need to reiterate how important social media is. If you take anything away from my presentation today, it should be that the way we search for jobs hasn't really become impersonal. The personalization has just become digitized, so showing your personality through words, pictures, videos, and experience. Post weekly that you're looking for a job on your LinkedIn status, on your Facebook status. You never know who's going to appear from your network that might have read your post, that knows someone that can help you out. People like and share your posts, and it instantly reaches hundreds of people. So make sure you're posting, you're adding content to groups, you're commenting on posts through groups. As an example, I live in Milton, Ontario. So there's a group on Facebook for people that live in Milton, and it has 15,000 members. So I actively see, or on a regular basis, see companies in Milton looking to recruit candidates that post in that group, or people that are looking for a job that post, I'm looking for a customer service job. Does anyone know of any new openings? So look to see if your city or town has a group that you could be active in on LinkedIn or Facebook. Do your homework. I read article content every day, content about jobs, content about marketing, as that's my field. I also have Google alerts set up for topics that I'm interested in. So if you're looking for a job in customer service, or you want more information on how to use social media to find a job, Google has this really cool thing called Google alerts. So you can set those up to go right to your email on a daily basis. And just remember, knowledge is power. Find out what new tools are out there. Search article content on how to use social media to find a job. Check out news stories of companies you want to work for, and see what new companies are entering into the market. One of my last points, show how you can solve employers' problems. So study the job description and any available information you have on the position. Are you mirroring the words and phrases in the job description? Are you showcasing your strengths in the areas that seem to be paramount of importance to this role? Scale over your resume. Does it say you have strong interpersonal skills? I would probably delete that. Does it say you're proficient in Word and Excel? You can probably delete that too. You can definitely come up with something better that demonstrates how you can use these skills in a previous role, how you use these skills in a previous role to really help their company grow. Employers see thousands of resumes each day that say the same thing time after time. Be more descriptive, use quantitative information, and really show them why you would be a huge asset to their organization. So that kind of goes hand in hand with giving the company a glimpse of your work. It's really important to show that quantitative information and really pique the employer's interest. So combine all of your job search tools. I hope that you take all the points I've given you today and add them into your search process. I know we talked a lot about online tips, but I also still believe in making personal connections. So attending career fairs, using your network of friends and family, volunteering, and potentially doing internships for companies you want to work for. We have volunteers, we have career fairs that we host 4 times a year, and we do have several volunteers that help us out at these events. It gives them an opportunity to be a part of something, to meet the employers that we're working with face-to-face, and a lot of our volunteers have made or obtained positions through our career fairs. So it's a great way. Put yourself out there. If you're not working, volunteer for career events, volunteer for charity organizations, and really build up your network. My last point on my last slide here is just building your online network. So each day you should be focusing on building your online presence. I spend probably, I would say, 2 hours each day on LinkedIn, adding relevant connections, following groups, commenting on posts, posting article content myself or top tips that I have that might be of use to my network. I recommend it not only for job searching, but also for meeting new people and expanding your network. So just some concluding remarks in terms of how I would find a job. I know I covered a lot of information. I would definitely use all the tools available to search for jobs each day by creating a schedule, using my local job search sites. I would also ensure to have my resume posted and alerts set up on each of these websites. I would then find jobs that I wanted to apply for these positions. And I would even go so far sometimes as to make a note to follow up on LinkedIn. So if you've applied for a job, let's say for Google, go to LinkedIn, type in HR Manager Google, see what pops up. I'm sure there's several HR contacts on Google that you could reach out to and say, I applied for, a software developer job the other day, and here are my credentials. I feel I'd be a great fit to the role, and here's why. Any recruitment manager, if you're an exact fit for what they're looking for, would, number one, applaud your forward thinking. They would applaud the fact that you took time out to have a different strategy on your recruitment, and they would probably entertain your resume. So it's just going and taking it one step further in your search and using the social media and using the tools that you have available to really help you in terms of finding a job. So so it's kind of the process I would take. I hope I've given you some things to think about in your job search today. Remember that finding a job is a full-time job, and is a full-time job in itself. And hustle and hard work really pays off in thinking outside the box. So don't stop researching, building, learning, speaking with people. And I wish you all the best, and look forward to any questions that you may have.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rachel, and thank you so much, Fernando, just for a really packed and informative webinar today. Yes, and thank you, everyone, for joining. Hope to see you again soon.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Good luck.
Bye, everyone.